Today I'm gonna tell you and show you all about how I make my paintings. From art supplies to how I begin my process, how I end my process, what I paint, why I paint it, and I will go with you through the process of making the mountain cottage. Hi, I'm Yara and welcome to this video. I hope you're doing good, I hope this video brings you comfort and I hope you learn something new today. Maybe it gets you inspired to paint something. I would hope for that, and without further ado, let me tell you how I make my paintings. It's a beautiful sunny day today, and it's a perfect day to not sit in my shadowy corner and paint, but actually sunbathe a little bit and tell you about my process here by the window. I paint with canvases or wooden panels, usually. Sometimes, rarely, I will paint on paper, but in general I have wooden canvases that I buy on Amazon and stretched canvases I buy in my local art store here in Slovenia, where I live. I use paper palette that is basically a disposable palette, so once a paper sheet is completely full with dried paint, I throw the sheet away and then I'm again here with the clean palette sheet. This is not an ideal option. I'm not really excited by this option because it's not really sustainable, but I haven't found another option that would suit my process yet. I think I will try glass palette in the near future, but yeah, I have this big palette sheet block, and until I run out I will use those that I have left. Before I start painting, I usually sketch a sketch in my sketchbook, and it usually just resonates with me which form of ratios and size of the canvas would a certain sketch go on. So for example, if I have a cottage and a lot of stuff going on around it, I will usually choose big canvas, and then if I just have an idea for a flower or some really simple landscape, I will probably use smaller sized canvas. But generally more elements, bigger canvas, because on the smaller canvas, if I paint a lot of details, a lot of elements, they will really just mesh with each other and it will not look pretty. So yeah, generally smaller canvas, simpler elements, bigger canvas, more complex elements. That is kind of my rule. For this painting, it has the sky and the ground, and then the mountains in the distance or the forest hills in the distance, and then it has a cottage that is central composition, and then it also has a little details around. I wanted to paint little flowers on the grass field and little bushes all around, so there is quite a lot of elements. So I chose middle-sized canvas, which is 30 by 40 centimeters, and yeah, I used the wooden one because I had it in stock. But generally 30 by 40 centimeters for me is middle-sized canvas. But artists are really different. Some artists really like to paint small mini studies in their sketchbooks, and some artists, like to paint it big, meters and meters big and wide paintings. So that is completely on you, on every artist, the preference and how they want to paint. At first I sketch a little sketch on the bare canvas or the painting surface, and that is just because I know the composition, I know where the center is, I know where the middle is, and I can just paint freely then. Because if I don't mark the middle of the canvas and where the main subject is on my canvas, I will just end up repainting it and not being satisfied and just wasting time and paint. So I sketch a brief sketch on the painting surface before I start painting. Almost always, if not always. For this particular painting, I chose colors you see on the screen here. I usually choose yellow, blue and red, the primary colors, but then I also sometimes switch between them because I use different blues, different reds, different yellows, and if I see mid-painting that the shade does not suit it so good, or that for the certain vibe I would rather paint with certain different red, for example, I will switch the color red. But yeah, generally I use primary colors, then a lot of white and no black. I don't use black in my paintings because in my experience it just makes everything muddy and dark and not vibrant. So I mix my darker tones with my dark shades of greens, blues, and red is also very important here. I will choose what I paint first and what I paint when by the pure logic of it. So if I have a background and the subject in front of this background, I will first paint the background and then I will paint the subject, because I know a lot of artists first paint the main subject and then the background, but for me it just doesn't work, because then I kind of ruin the subject because I paint a little bit over it. I don't know, it just does not have logic for me. So I will start in the distance and I will move forward with my painting. Usually I add less saturated, lighter colors on the background, you know, and then I move forward with more saturated colors, and usually I will put more blue tones in the back, and then when I'm moving forward I will add saturated colors, more warm colors when I'm going to the front of the picture. So yeah, because the eye will go to the subject that is central, to the subject that is more contrasted, more saturated, and that's how I kind of think while painting stuff. So while painting Mountain Cottage, I actually painted 2 layers on the background before ever painting the main subject, and that is just because I wanted to make the background colors more accurate, because, you know, the first layer is always less opaque and maybe I'm finding the right palette, so I'm not there yet, so I don't want to paint central subject yet. So I have gone the second time through the sky and through the background hills and forests, so I really get the clear picture of which color palettes will be there and what exact composition will be there. So I will then paint this mini central subject, which is this cute cottage, on top of it, and it will just the process will just be simpler that way. But I heard that some artists like to paint main subject first or as soon as possible, because then they get out of ugly stage really quickly, because, you know, ugly stage is when the painting is looking horrible and you have to trust the process, and if you have this central subject kind of pretty already, then you have more motivation to paint forward. But I don't work that way, but if you do, that's totally fine. So I have painted it the second time, and I have decided I will go all in with the foggy forest back there. fog is one of the subjects, one of the things that I don't like to paint because it's kind of hard. Fog, cloud, this translucent, misty area is kind of hard for me to paint, not master it yet. So I really went out of comfort zone here, and I think it looks pretty, it looks cool, and I'm really happy with this forest behind this cottage. Here, the sky looked too purple to me, so I went over for the third time because I kind of thought that it will look cool when purple, but then I decided I want this really misty, kind of dark vibe behind it. Not dark as in not happy, but a little bit rainy, a little bit cozy, so the cottage will pop out more and look a little bit more cozy. So I have decided, yes, to go through the background for a third time, and then I went back and forth through the sky until it looked right to me, until it looked rainy and dark enough that I felt that this cottage will really suit its cozy purpose in this painting. Lately, I've been painting cute cottages with different distinct colors on their roofs, like pink roof, blue roof, and I decided I want to make one with this cute red roof that will kind of pop out of this misty, rainy environment and make it all more comforting. And I decided that ochre pastel warm tone for the walls will look pretty with the red color, so I have painted it that way. And of course some warm wooden doors, front doors, because front doors are the soul of the house, some say. And yeah, I just try to pop it all together so it will look like this warm and welcoming little simple cottage in the forest on this wildflower meadow. If you want to paint forest that is kind of foggy, kind of misty, not clear, this is a really beautiful subject to paint, but you have to see a lot of photos of it, in my opinion, and just see how these trees are kind of moving forward with darker and more saturated tones. So the fog is making them lighter, and this usually means that you add more white when you're going to the distance, and then in the front there are more clear colors, more tubey colors. So in this case I have painted whiter, brighter trees in the back, and then I move to the front with the darker colors. And then when the trees are moving to the front, they have more definition. So those in the back are just kind of the silhouettes of one color, the trees that are more in the fog, and the ones that are more in front of the fog, that are not in this cloud anymore, have more definition, have shades, have lights, have highlights, and are more green looking, are more saturated looking. But yeah, the highlights are really important here. The closer it is, the more away from the fog it is, the tree, the better, brighter highlights it has. So I think like that when painting foggy forests. And if you open Pinterest and see some of the foggy forest, you will see that in the photos. The same goes with highlights on the bushes, and in the end the same goes for the highlights on the grass, but grass is a little bit different here, so yeah, I will explain that later. The cottage I paint really intuitively. It's just like I imagine it, I look at the sketch, I look at the references, and then I just paint the cottage, think a little bit about the shading, but not too much. And when everything comes together, I, at the end, just add background colors, and that is really important to glaze this cottage with this green bluish color of the whole painting, so it looks like it is a part of the painting. If you will paint this yellow red cottage in the middle of gloomy blue-green landscape, it will look like it is just sitting there on the painting. It will not look like it's in the painting. So having all the colors that you are using in the whole painting, in every subject in the painting, will look like this scenery is going all together. It's all the part of one piece. Otherwise, it will look like you are putting stickers on your painting, if that makes sense. But this was really important realization when I first started painting. Some of my subjects in the paintings look like the stickers on the canvas, and then I learned that I have to mix all the colors from the paintings to all the subjects in the painting, just in different amounts. And yeah, that is kind of interesting, because my understanding is that light is reflecting everything in its surroundings, you know? If you go stand under the tree, you will have more green on your skin. I don't know, if you're wearing a red shirt, a little bit of this red will reflect on your chin. It's really little bit, we don't really register it when we look at the scene, but our subconscious sees it, and it will see if something doesn't look right, if something is not reflecting the colors in its surroundings. And towards the end, I have painted the objects that are in front of the scenery, and that is the grass and the front bushes. And I paint the grass just how I can see it, so less detail in the back, and then in the front more and more detail and more contrast. So it's kind of hard to explain how I paint grass. If you're interested, I can make a tutorial if you also want to paint grass but you don't really know how to go about it. But yeah, it's basically I paint highlighted area, which in this case is in front of the cottage. I paint with lighter green, and then I paint the background of shaded area with the darker green, and then in the light area I paint grass with darker green. So I actually paint the shades of the grass because there is more highlights, so I only paint a little bit of shading, and then in the shadowy area I only paint a little bit of highlights. That is so hard to explain. I'm so sorry for this explanation, but yeah, I am not an art teacher, but I'm trying to be in this video, so I hope you get some useful tips from these explanations of mine. And after I painted the grass, I have painted wildflowers on this grass field, and I have painted these yellow colors that I don't know how they are called in English, but we in Slovenia have them as one of the first spring flowers on the grass. I will put the name here. And also I have painted a little bit of daisies here and there. And then I decided to add some forget-me-nots, because a few days ago I went to the walk in the forest and I saw those beautiful blue areas of forget-me-nots that were just kind of these little blue carpets in the forest floor, and it was so beautiful. So I decided I had to put a little bit of distant forget-me-nots in this landscape. Also, it looks good because the sky is blue, and then I add a little bit more blue on the bottom, you know, more in the front, so the colors are in better composition. If you add a lot of yellow on the right side, you know, you should add a little bit of yellow on the left side, so it kind of balances out. So yeah, those forget-me-nots are a great balance to the blue sky here. And yeah, then I just look at the painting and I see if there is anything I can add. Is there any brush stroke that I can add that can enhance the painting, or if that is enough and I should stop so it doesn't get too cluttered. And I decided at this point that I am satisfied with the painting and I will stop, and it's hard to stop. I don't like finishing paintings. I much rather start the painting and paint the painting, but finishing them is very stressful for me. It's like I'm under pressure that I'm forgetting something, that I am not adding something that would enhance the painting, or that I am not seeing something that is wrong. I feel like time pressured, and I'm not, but it's just stressful to make this decision that the painting is finished and to make the final touches that will kind of be the final strokes on the painting. For me, some artists have more of a problem with starting paintings, but yeah, I have a problem with finishing paintings. But I hope not for long, because I'm working through my issues. I'm trying to. And that is all for this painting process. Here is the final piece. I love it. I love all my cottages, but yeah, I really love painting cottages. I don't know what it is. It's just like this life is so chaotic, and these city noises and the gray concrete and the fast-paced lives, and lots of people, lots of houses, lots of cars, noises. And I really like to just immerse in my foresty paintings, in my cute little cottages, and just absorb the peace that this process and this art brings me, if that makes sense. And I think that painting is a great tool to cope with stress, to cope with anxiety, to cope with depression, to cope with mental health issues in general, and also to prevent them, because it's this time that you have with yourself to express yourself, to express your creativity, and I think this can only help. I can see the possibility that it would hurt anybody to paint something beautiful, to express themselves with painting. And it's really one of my favorite things to do on this planet. And yeah, I hope this shows through this video and that it inspired you in any way. Maybe you will in the near future paint something, maybe you will sculpt something, maybe you will make some music, maybe you will go for a nice beautiful walk, whatever it is that you need to get inspired for. I hope this video is a little bit of help for that. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can check out my Patreon, where I have some cool exclusive rewards, monthly exclusive video, personalized art mail every month, weekly studio updates, and you can also check out my online shop, where you can find my originals, my prints, my stickers, that I pour my heart and soul into, so you can check that out. Or you can follow me on Instagram, where I post my reels and everything. And if you like this video, you can subscribe to this channel and like the video, give it a thumbs up. I make new video every single week, and I will see you again next week in another one. Thank you for watching. Bye.